Hi, everybody. Jared Petty here for IGN, joined by
Steve Butts, that's me.
That is Steve Butts. Steve, what are we looking at here?
We are looking at the second teaser for Star Wars The Force Awakens. I could not be more excited.
Yeah, I am, in fact, shaking with trepidation and joy, both at the same time here. It's just fantastic what we've seen here. We're going to break down a few of the scenes, show some of what's going on in the background, do a little bit of speculation here. Wow, what an opening shot. Yeah. So let's roll back for a second and kind of see what we got here. First off, in this piece, three things happening at least. First, we're seeing the planet Jakku.
Yeah, and we speculated originally, you know, anytime you see a desert planet in Star Wars, you're like, oh, that's Tatooine. Yeah. Actually not the case. There are other desert planets in the galaxy.
Well, it's a big galaxy. Right. I mean, you know.
But yes, we did get confirmation during the celebration today that this is Jakku. And it is a desert planet, and it's where we find the character Rey, played by Daisy Ridley. And we think Daisy Ridley as Rey is she may be riding the speeder bike that we saw her on in the previous trailer.
Right. We've learned also from that celebration conference today that Daisy Ridley's character is a scavenger, and here we see kind of things she's headed towards scavenging. Yeah,
we see there's a crashed X-wing here in the desert, and right behind it a crashed Star Destroyer. Now these don't have repulsor lifts; these came from orbit. Somewhere.
Yeah, this is just kind of and it's a really beautiful, evocative shot. It shows, hey, look, since you watched Star Wars, a lot has passed because these ships have been here a long time. Look how it's partially buried in sand. This did not happen recently.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's sort of an aged, ruined relic. Maybe even from the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, somewhere around that period of time. And we're going to learn more about that later on with the Aftermath book and things like that. We don't know a lot yet, but we do know we're seeing Jakku. We're seeing it roughly 30 years after Return of the Jedi, and apparently the relics of the old war are still laying around.
Yes, so, and speaking of a relic, we start to begin to hear a familiar voice here as who I'm presuming is Mark Hamill begins to recycle, and they maybe even just reusing his lines from Return of the Jedi, where he says, the Force is strong in my family. I have it. My father has it, which is an interesting thing for him to say in this context. And my sister has it. You'll have it too, which is they're basically flipping the line that he delivers to Leia on Endor in Return of the Jedi.
Right, yeah. They're standing on the bridge there talking back and forth in that scene. But yeah, right here, we see Vader's melted helmet, probably from the pyre where he was burned at the end of Return of the Jedi. We hear the breathing, which is probably just a dramatic voiceover or sound effect done for the trailer. But he does say, my father has it. Now, is it just because that line sounds cool and it's from the original thing? Is it because he's hanging around and talking to Anakin's Force Ghost? Sure. Is it because Darth Vader is still alive? That seems extraordinarily unlikely.
Or is it because it's another character, presumably Luke's child, talking about Luke? My father has
which is another possibility there, which is really cool. So there's so many things that could be going on here. But look, it's melted Vader face. It's melted Vader face. I'm going to just freak out for a minute with absolute joy here, and then we'll move on. So my father has
This is one of the things I love about this trailer, and I didn't get this as much from the Phantom Menace. You know, obviously a bunch of us were excited about that when that first trailer came out, but we're seeing so many familiar elements here, but in a new context. You know, the ruined Star Destroyer, this sort of burned up Vader face from the pyre on Endor.
Right. The Phantom Menace was all about introducing you to what amounted to practically a new galaxy, so shiny and new it was almost unrecognizable. But here we see a mix of new characters and relics from the past, touchstones.
Yes,
that make us feel like we're a part of an ongoing story.
It's that sense of familiarity that I didn't get with Phantom Menace. I think a lot of fans didn't either. All right, so moving on from here, we see another really iconic, awesome scene. A great character, fan favorite R2-D2.
There he is.
And this figure here reaches out with a robotic hand. Again, like our guess is this could be Luke, but let's be honest, there's a lot of amputees in the Star Wars universe.
It is not all that difficult to get something chopped off in Star Wars. We think this is Luke because, during the voiceover, I have it, he says. And so we're assuming this is Luke Skywalker, but we do not know that. The hand doesn't look right.
The hand doesn't look quite right, but also, you know, he's with R2. That's a very classic sort of relationship for Luke Skywalker. And given that we're hearing a person who we think is Luke talking, I don't think it's that much of a stretch for us to jump to the conclusion that this is maybe young Skywalker.
Also, the robe here, kind of evocative of a Return of the Jedi Jabba's palace sequence, the clothing that he prefers.
Now, I do want to stop for just 1 second because he says you have it too. And in the context of Return of the Jedi, he's obviously talking about Princess Leia.
Right.
We don't actually know which of the three new characters, the three new main leads, might be Force sensitive, might be sort of a future Jedi. It could be Daisy Ridley, since she's sort of the person that we saw at the opening of the trailer.
Could be John Boyega.
There are two other characters. There's John Boyega, and then there's also there's Poe Dameron, the X-Wing pilot, which we'll get to in just a minute. But I love this shot. Again, something for the Star Wars fan in me.
Exactly.
So moving on from that sequence, the very next thing that we see is
okay. So there's a lot going on. Let's back up here.
Yeah.
All right. First, you caught this right there, right side of the screen. That doesn't look human.
That doesn't look human. That's presumably some sort of alien. And what does that alien have in its hand? It's none other than Luke Skywalker's original lightsaber from the original Star Wars: A New Hope.
Which, going all the way back, is actually Darth Vader's lightsaber, going back to Episode 3. Revenge of the
Your
Sith.
father wanted you to have it.
Yeah, exactly. So look at this. It's just amazing. And again, that kind of touchstone. But there's the lightsaber. That appears to be Luke's blue saber. And it's being passed to...
presumably a female here, has a ring.
Yep.
Kind of lady nails.
Could be Carrie Fisher. Could be Daisy Ridley. We're not sure who this is here.
And this is another thing. I mean, we talk a little bit about the Darth Vader match and the Star Destroyer and R2-D2 and the robot hand and everything, but it's the thematic continuity as well that strikes me in this scene. You know, Star Wars is a story about family generations and about sort of the passing on of inheritance and even sort of that idea of the sins of my father and that whole concept of one generation handing things off to another is implied not just in this shot and sort of the tone around it, but even in the casting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a literal passing of the torch going on in this moment. Yeah, this is a large heat and energy emitting thing being passed on. It's kind of wonderful. It's really actually a pretty brilliant little second here. Also, I love how they're clever enough to keep everything out of focus in the background, so we have no idea where this is actually happening.
But obviously, there's clearly some kind of technology back there. You know, I wouldn't consider the scene to be out of place in sort of a hangar, like a spaceship, port, something like that, or some sort of repair shop. All right, moving on. Another fantastic scene. This one actually follows on another scene that we saw in the original teaser that came out last year, and this is
this Christmas. That's not the scene.
This is not the Christmas. All the Christmas.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
It's this with the X-wings. Yeah, we saw before the X-wings flying low over the water. Kind of had that Clint Eastwood Firefox effect where like the water spraying
very well
up
done.
behind
Exactly. Up in there, and now we see them kind of spread out more. I love these are the new model X-wings. Now we have had it confirmed that these are X-wings, even though their X-foils divide the engines in a different way. And here we're going to see Oscar Isaac's character Poe Dameron. We're going to pop in there, and he was described during the celebration panel earlier today as one of the hot shot pilot.
He described himself as the best pilot in the galaxy.
Well, that's what a hot shot pilot does, though.
It's that cockiness that you got off of Han Solo in the original trilogy as well.
Man.
Yeah. So, and you see, obviously, like the cockpit's very familiar. The sort of fatigues that he's wearing very familiar as well. But like lots of new touches as well. The Republic symbol is relatively unchanged, but sort of the context of the scene is very familiar to me, but also at the same time super new and exciting and surprising.
All right, we move on here.
I will say, before we move on from him, we did learn another detail from Celebration about Poe Dameron, which is that he's been sent on a mission from a certain princess that we're familiar with.
A certain princess. And I'm going to strongly suspect that certain princess is, in fact, Princess Leia. Unless because what other princesses are we aware of?
Yeah, that would be my guess. And his story, based on his own discussion at Celebration, also ties in with that of Finn. One of the concerns I had from the first trailer was that none of the characters were together.
Yeah.
They didn't relate to each other, so I didn't really get a sense of how they mattered to each other. We still don't quite get that with Poe Dameron, except what he said at Celebration, but we're going to see a lot more of that coming up in the trailer for the other characters.
Exactly, yeah. So Poe Dameron's going to interact with Finn, Finn's going to interact with Daisy, and that's going to create our kind of trio of heroes here.
Yes, before we get to more of the heroes, though, let's talk a little bit about the villain of this piece.
Okay, so right there, a lot going on right here. First off, there he is, Kylo Ren. Our bad guy, and in the background, behind the famous crosshatch lightsaber, we can see a stormtrooper standing.
There's
we got things that flame there. So
there's two of them, in fact, and we're going to see. I think the setup for this scene in just a few minutes here. Or a few moments, rather. Okay. So here we see, who do we have here?
Okay, so we have Daisy Ridley, we have John Boyega, so we have Rey and Finn. Then we see BB-8 there in the background, and if you look at the top left, you can see a TIE fighter blasting away, coming in behind them. The iconic green lasers used by the Empire firing them behind them. So obviously, these people have angered the Empire in some way.
Yeah, and John Boyega gave sort of a circumspect kind of confirmation that he is in fact a stormtrooper, which I think There's no doubt about that by the time we get to the end of this trailer. But it's interesting now. There's a TIE fighter shooting, and he's running away from that. You know, he's had obviously some sort of crisis of conscience or some sort of betrayal on his part, on part of the Empire.
Yeah, and also some sort of costume change. He is no longer the Stormtrooper armor. So
we also had a chance to see BB-8 during Celebration come out on stage as a real practical effect, and I was totally blown away by that.
Yeah, cutest thing ever. I really like BB-8. I like the design. I think it's just different enough from R2 to make him as his own droid. I mean, you don't R2-D2. It's hard to steal the show from.
Sure.
He's maybe the greatest robot design in pop culture history. But I really like what they've done with BB. He's kind of a technical marvel there. So once again, probably here on the planet Jakku. And we move on to the...
Well, I would say just real quick, you know, one other thing about BB-8 is that first shot we had of him before, he was just by himself, so we didn't get a sense of scale.
Yep.
We saw him on stage right next to R2-D2. He's about half of R2's size, maybe a little bit more. So it gives you a really good sense of like where he fits, just spatially in terms of his relationship with the other characters.
About Wilson size. You put him on a desert island with... that's... Yep, there we are.
So here we have, this is sort of... this really reminded me of the Hunger Games, where you have sort of the guards up there and the sort of disaffected masses trying to get the political authority, and obviously things are not super great back there behind them with all the fire and smoke and debris flying through the air.
I think people are justifiably upset. Stuff is burning, and then Kylo Ren turns around. There he is. Okay, so a lot going on here. Who is Kylo Ren?
Kylo Ren is the bad guy in this movie. There was some speculation about this character with a cross-hilt lightsaber in the original trailer, but we can confirm now this is presumably the big bad, or at least one of the big bads in Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
And a masked bad guy. Going back again, that kind of evocative touchstone thing.
Yeah,
you know.
And we mentioned, you know, we haven't seen Max von Sydow in this trailer yet, but maybe we have. Maybe he's the one in his mask.
Is Max in there? Is that him? Is that Adam Driver under there? Is that, you know, we don't know.
There are other actors we haven't seen.
We haven't seen Domhnall Gleeson. We haven't seen Max. We haven't seen Andy Serkis yet that we're aware of. We're not sure exactly who's under there. We've heard some rumors about Domhnall Gleeson maybe acting as a character called the General, and Andy Serkis as Uber, but none of that's confirmed.
Right. But super menacing. I mean, just, again, super evocative scene right here. Very excited about that. We move on here to something else that calls back to the original trilogy. These are stormtroopers on kind of an icy planet, and there's a weird banner back there.
And look at that logo. It's evocative of the Imperial logo, but it's different. There's far more, a much larger number of tendrils coming out from it than we see in the classic Imperial logo. Also on the left, we see a TIE fighter with what appears to be a kind of a black and white color motif, and then right there in the center of the platform, some person in black, some being in black. That's the position that you usually hold if you're the evil dictator over somebody. Who is that?
I mean, it could be Max von Sydow. It could be the General. It could be any number of characters. You know, unfortunately, even in HD, it's not high enough resolution for us to actually zoom in and see who that is. But yeah, tremendous opportunity for speculation. I also love how the cannons on either side here look just like the tower guns on the Death Star in the Death Star trench.
Yeah, it's again, it's just going back. We've got this touch. The new Stormtrooper outfits. I really enjoy them. They look enough like what I remember to be really cool, but there's just enough added sleekness to them to make them feel kind of new wave. I really enjoy them quite a bit.
I do like that.
They marched those stormtroopers out on stage today. This guy's just standing there. And I was thinking, you know, what it must have been like to be one of the guys in those costumes. Just like standing there like, wow. I'm a stormtrooper, and everybody here is really happy to see me.
That's awesome. Stormtroopers don't usually get that reaction. I'm
no, they don't. Poor stormtroopers. Maybe they shoot better in these movies.
Well, speaking of stormtrooper shooting, this next scene shows a little bit of that. There's sort of TIE fighters coming in here.
Yeah, and again, I think those may be ties with the new color scheme. They're certainly, I don't know, those look a little more classic, but they look darker. I don't know if it's the shot or if those are the new black ties that we're used to seeing.
I definitely think they're black, Jared. They definitely look like that to me.
Yeah, oh, there we go. Get a better look at it. Yeah, they do look like black ties there. So it's a black tie affair. There we are.
Get out.
Okay, a lot going on here. Stormtroopers, this guy just flying through the air. Here's the black and white ties again. Looking out the back right, we can see through the force field the stars of space. So we are in a hangar in some sort of spaceship. You can see him out there on the right side.
And look on the far right, those sort of blue lights glowing. It looks like the back of a ship that I think we might see later. Double check me on that when we get to that.
Oh, yeah, that may be one of the shuttles.
But I do think that's one of the Imperial shuttles that we see. But yeah, here's a TIE fighter here, basically just wrecking stuff in presumably the hangar of. I keep wanting to call them Imperials. I guess it's some sort of Imperial remnant, though.
Well, we don't know. We don't. Maybe the Empire Empire survived the whole thing. Maybe it's a remnant. We'll use it. Let's use Imperials. Let's agree to use Imperials. There's the iconic green laser again that Imperial ships fire. Stormtroopers firing back. Lots of chaos. So this may be John Boyega's defection. This could be Finn's escape.
It could be, or it could be the event that precipitates his disaffection with the Empire.
Yeah.
Or whatever we call this sort of political power that the main characters are striving against. But yeah, I love this show. I mean, lots of cool stuff going on in here. Lots of great effects, and again, like it looks like a lot of this looks like real stuff, like real practical stuff.
Yeah,
as well, which I love.
JJ talked about how he wanted in an interview months ago about how he wanted it to be messy. I think this is what he was talking about.
There's no better way to make a mess than to get a TIE fighter and just start shooting.
Yeah, just start shooting away. Absolutely. We move on here, and there we go. Inside what appears to be a starship of some kind that looks a lot like a ship set. There he is, Finn, John Boyega, confirmed Stormtrooper, taking the helmet off. This man looks disenfranchised.
Yeah, he looks like he feels like he's made a poor decision in his
I'm
life.
tortured! All right, so we figured this is going to be one of our heroes. We know, that, again, from the Celebration conference that he and Daisy Ridley's characters are going to cross paths. It's going to change both their lives. And so, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think it's no great stretch to assume that this scene is linked immediately with the one we saw before, because you see sort of the glowing orange reflections in his armor, and he's you know kind of looking out and figuring out maybe what's next for me. You know, like where do I want to go after this?
Yeah, maybe I should have talked to my high school guidance counselor before enrolling in the Imperial military. Yeah.
All right, so from here we see, so there are the engine lights that I feel like we were seeing in the hangar previously. New shuttles, new Star Destroyers.
Right, those aren't Lambdas. And yeah, looking at the superstructure of that Star Destroyer, that appears to be kind of a new layout for it. It's, again, evocative, familiar, but there's something new going on there.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird protruding lower end of the superstructure there.
Yeah, it's got an underbite.
Yeah, it does have an underbite.
Some sort of Star Destroyer.
Which ones have overbites and underbites? Alligators, crocodiles are the underbites, right?
I actually don't know.
I think it's crocodiles.
I'm gonna have to prep for that rewind when it comes up.
Alligator, crocodile rewind. You gotta watch out for those.
Yeah. Okay. So we see them going in. Oh, ow, Jared! Look at this.
I love this. Okay, the Chrome Trooper. We think this character is named Captain Phasma. That's the rumor. We don't know for sure. We've also heard this may be Gwendolyn Christie inside. So much going on in the shot. First, center of the shot. That there is the old Death Star background.
Yeah.
So cool. Then on the right, a panel, very Imperial evocative. Left side of the shot, that appears to be rock or something organic. Are they underground? Is this a secret base? But Steve, let's talk about the fashion statement.
Yeah, that cape with that nice red stripe, that pop of color there. Going along the edge, along the fringe of it. I love everything about this design. It's super flashy, but I think that's kind of its intention, and it totally works for me.
It does. There's a lot of shiny stuff in the original trilogy things, but somehow this just seems to work a little better. It still has, I don't know if it's the lighting, but it seems to fit the setting more. Also, capes like that, again, Boba Fett had that short cape there for a while.
Sure.
But, when you've got a big shiny chrome suit, cape very useful for polishing and buffing when you get a little less than perfectly shiny.
Absolutely. So. You get fingerprints on your helmet.
Yeah, they're right there. Just wipe it with a cape. You're good.
But yeah, we don't really know where the scene is set because, like Jared said, there's sort of the technological side and there's sort of the organic side on the left. Maybe this is part of something that's been repurposed. But Star Wars is, for me, we've talked about this before, always been about that sort of intersection of worlds. And I like the idea of like the cool high-tech thing being next to like the ancient cave. That to me is, there's nothing more Star Wars
That's
than that.
Very Star Wars. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
All right, so here we have another callback. So this is BB-8, and he's doing the sort of R2-D2 lean around the corner just to see what's going on. But where is he?
In that corner. Look there. You look in the background. Folks, that there is the inside of ye old Millennium Falcon. We recognize those doorways from all three of the original trilogy movies. That's the inside of the Falcon. Even grimier than we're used to seeing. Even dirtier. 30 years older. What a piece of junk. But, in fact, she's got it where it counts.
She's the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy.
Okay, and this is the return of another character for me. I mean, when they revealed the Falcon in the original teaser trailer, that right there, that was a character. The Millennium Falcon is as much a part of Star Wars as anything else. When I was watching Lando Calrissian run out at the end of Return of the Jedi, trying to escape from the Death Star the first time, I was as in fear for the Falcon as I was for Lando, and it's really good to see her back.
Absolutely. I love seeing the inside. We'll see the outside of it as well in a few minutes here.
Yep.
So here we're seeing our first close-up of Daisy Ridley as Rey, the Scavenger on Jakku. This may be following on the scene where she and BB-8 and Finn are running away from the explosion. You see here she reaches out a hand to Finn, and I love this sort of suggesting like maybe the cementing of their relationship, or this is he finally finds an ally in whatever sort of path he happens to be on
whatever
at this
terrible
point.
place he's ended up in. Also, poor Finn, in everything we've seen so far from Star Wars previews, he looks really disturbed. I hope
he's always kind of panting.
Yeah, he needs to smile. He needs to have a good day.
Make sure to bring your inhaler.
Absolutely.
Not sure what the Stormtrooper health plan is.
There we go, Millennium Falcon. Now we've already seen part of this sequence just for a second in the original teaser, and now as we cut ahead here, we're going to see him. Oh, they're escaping Stormtroopers. There she is. One of the most iconic spaceships in motion picture history. And there we are, flying into the engine of some immense crash ship. I don't know if this is an Imp Star. At that size, I think it almost have to be.
I think it would absolutely have to be. Yeah. I speculated, at least earlier, maybe it's some sort of Corvette. But just the size of those engines is just incompatible with that. But I wonder if this is maybe the rear view of the shot we saw at the very beginning where who we presume is Rey is sort of riding across the dunes, and we see that crash Star Destroyer. This might be the other side of that.
That could be, or another crash ship from the same space battle. Maybe this planet is covered in things like this. So, all right.
There are a couple other callbacks here, which I really like. You see immediately coming up here, there's going to be the picture of the TIE fighter pilot, which, I mean, that's straight out of A New Hope, the original Star Wars movie, where you kind of see the close-up on them from the cockpit. It's sort of that reverse angle on them, which I really, really love.
Totally.
And again, the outfit here, or their sort of uniform is familiar, but still fresh and modern and surprising, which I really like. I feel like I'm giving a lot of fashion commentary.
No, you know what? Well, Star Wars is very fashionable.
Right.
Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, there you go. Another cape wearer.
Yeah, another cape
fan
wearer.
of the cape.
That dude had fashion sense.
Yeah.
All right.
There's another shot up here that obviously that's very evocative. Sort of calls back to Return of the Jedi as Nien Nunb and Lando Calrissian are trying to fly out of the Death Star after they've destroyed the power core. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen the movie. But I love sort of the familiar, iconic imagery, but in this sort of new context.
And we bounce ahead just here a little more, and then finally the there we go. And so we've seen the new and the old, the new and the old, the new and the old, and then we have this moment that parallels a shot that we see, a famous shot from Star Wars of Han with his blaster out, Chewbacca at the ready beside him. Same framing. Of the characters.
It's one of the most ubiquitous publicity stills from that first movie. And I love how they've got their guns up, but they're smiling, right?
Yeah.
So it's this interesting sort of contradiction. Like, presumably they've shot their way through to get in here, or maybe they're getting the drop on somebody who happens to be in the Falcon cockpit at this point. But the sort of smile on his face, like, that's me. Home. Like, that's how I feel watching this.
Now, when he says we're home, I wonder, does that mean that Han Solo and Chewbacca have been away from the Millennium Falcon for a long time?
Oh, I think it's almost certain that that's the case.
So what's happened? What's changed over all this time?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Also, again, on the fashion sense, love the Han Solo outfit here. Kind of reminiscent of Return of the Jedi. I love the fact that the movie did not expect us to believe he kept his vest for 30 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Lando kept it after Empire.
But Chewie still got his bandolier and his bowcaster, which I couldn't be more happy about.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Chewbacca, it looks like he hasn't aged all that much.
It's easy for him to keep up, though. He's really only got those two possessions. Everybody else has a lot of other stuff to keep track of.
Chewbacca, kind of a minimalist.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Although you figure he's got to have, a shaving kit of some kind just to keep that all trimmed.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and he says we're home. So and this is the final wrap up for the thing. Steve, what you think of the trailer?
I'm super excited. As I said before, I love the intersection of the old stuff in a new context. I like that we're getting to see characters interacting with each other, because that's one of the deficiencies I felt hurt the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to see that there are some real relationships being forged and being exposed in these trailers.
Yep.
And then obviously just sort of the visual flair of it. I mean, just the style and presentation of it, I think, has got me super excited that this is going to be a thrill-a-minute ride once it comes out in December.
Despite the fact that you're seeing terrible things happening and evil, iconic villains, there's almost a sense of pulsating joy coming out of the film here. It feels like a celebration. It really does. It feels like we know what you wanted, guys. We heard you. We listened, and this is what we're giving you. All the emphasis at the conference this morning about practical effects, all the emphasis on the characterization and how these people's lives are going to be intertwined, and all the subtle signals that they gave that they wanted to make a trilogy that really felt like what people loved most about Star Wars. And I see sign after sign after sign of it again here in the contrast between old and new, that instead of seeming jarring as it did before, it now seems completely natural
But they're also being, they're still playing it a little close with some things. It's not like every single thing in the movie is in the trailer. There's still no confirmation that any of those characters we saw were Princess Leia.
Oh, yeah.
We still haven't seen Luke's face. We haven't seen C-3PO at all. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a lot of other stuff that I'm excited about that I don't know anything about. I'm one of these people that I sometimes have to force myself to go radio silent on things I get super excited about.
Yeah.
So I like that there's still some promise of surprise.
Oh, yeah. Where's Crystal Clark? Where's Pip Anderson? Where's Adam Driver? Where's Andy Serkis? Where's Domhnall Gleeson? And where is Max von Sydow? Because of all the casting in this movie, that's the one that excited me the most. That guy.
Well, Jared, I think we've wrapped it up here. Any closing thoughts?
Star Wars forever. It is nice to be able to be legitimately excited about Star Wars again for what appears to me to be good reason. I think the messaging that we're getting from the producers and director of this movie shows that this is a Star Wars movie that I'm going to want to see. And it's been a long time since I've been able to say that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So that wraps it up for us here. For all your Star Wars related news and everything else that you're into, you're already in the place you need to be. IGN.com.